Between the harsh Gobi Desert and the towering Tibetan Plateau, a remarkable but largely forgotten empire once flourished. The Tangut Empire, also known as Xia or Western Xia, stood as a formidable power in northwestern China from 1038 to 1227 CE. Despite being surrounded by much larger kingdoms, this sophisticated civilization developed one of history's most complex writing systems, controlled crucial sections of the Silk Road, and created a unique cultural identity that blended multiple influences while maintaining its distinctiveness. Join us as we uncover the rise, achievements, and tragic fall of this enigmatic civilization that history nearly erased completely. The Tangut civilization emerged during a period of political fragmentation in Central and East Asia. Originally a Tibeto-Burman people who migrated eastward from the Tibetan Plateau, the Tanguts settled in what is now the Ningxia region and parts of Gansu, Shanxi, and Inner Mongolia. Taking advantage of the power vacuum created by the decline of the Tang dynasty, they gradually consolidated their territory under the leadership of the Li clan. In 1038 CE, Li Yuanhao, whose Tangut name was Wei Ming Yuanhao, declared himself emperor and transformed what had been a tribal confederation into a centralized state. He implemented administrative reforms that created a civil service system partly modeled on Chinese bureaucracy, while maintaining distinctive Tangut cultural elements throughout the government. Despite being surrounded by powerful neighbors, including the Song dynasty and the Liao Empire, the Tanguts managed to establish and maintain their independence through a combination of military strength and diplomatic skill. Perhaps the most extraordinary achievement of the Tangut civilization was the creation of their writing system, one of the most complex scripts ever devised in human history. Around 1036 CE, Emperor Li Yuanhao commissioned scholars to create this unique writing system. The result was a script consisting of approximately 6,000 characters, many even more intricate in structure than Chinese characters. What makes the Tangut script particularly fascinating to modern scholars is that despite superficial similarities to Chinese writing, it fundamentally differs in its organization and principles. Each character comprises distinct components arranged in unique ways that follow neither Chinese nor any other known writing system's patterns. This wasn't merely an adaptation of existing scripts, but a completely original creation. The development of this script was a deliberate act of cultural assertion and state building. By creating their own writing system rather than adopting Chinese characters, the Tanguts established a distinct national identity while developing the tools needed for a sophisticated bureaucracy. The script allowed for the precise recording of their native Tibeto-Burman language, which differed significantly from Chinese in its grammar and phonology. The Tanguts used their script to translate Buddhist texts, create legal codes, and produce indigenous literature, demonstrating the intellectual sophistication of their society. The decipherment of this script remained incomplete until relatively recently. In the 1990s and 2000s, significant breakthroughs were made using Tangut Chinese dictionaries and parallel texts. However, roughly 20% of the characters still defy complete translation, with many aspects of the language continuing to challenge linguists and historians. The primary resources for understanding the script include the Pearl in the Palm dictionary compiled in 1190 and the homophones, which provide phonetic and semantic information about thousands of Tangut characters. Modern computational approaches and digital databases have accelerated the pace of decipherment in recent decades, gradually revealing the rich literary tradition of this lost civilization. The economy of the Tangut Empire was remarkably diverse for a frontier state, combining multiple sources of wealth that funded their cultural achievements and military campaigns. In the fertile areas along the Yellow River, The Tanguts practiced intensive agriculture, growing millet, wheat, and other grains. Beyond these agricultural zones, they excelled in animal husbandry, particularly breeding horses that were highly valued by their neighbors. These dual economic foundations were supplemented by their most lucrative enterprise: control of key sections of the Silk Road. The strategic location of the Tangut Empire allowed them to dominate crucial oasis cities along the ancient trade routes connecting East Asia with Central Asia and beyond. This position brought tremendous wealth through customs duties and the trade of luxury goods. Tangut merchants dealt in jade, textiles, Buddhist religious items, and other valuable commodities that passed through their territory. Contemporary accounts describe a wealthy imperial court funded by this trade-based prosperity. The Tanguts weren't merely passive beneficiaries of their geographic position. They actively facilitated trade by maintaining roads, protecting caravans, and establishing markets in their cities. Archaeological evidence from sites like Khara-Khoto reveals the cosmopolitan nature of Tangut commerce, with artifacts originating from as far away as Persia and the Byzantine Empire found alongside local products. This economic prosperity allowed the Tangut rulers to fund ambitious cultural projects, maintain a powerful military, and develop the sophisticated urban centers that impressed foreign visitors to their realm. The Tangut capital, Khara-Khoto, meaning Black City in Mongolian, stood as the crowning achievement of their civilization and the physical embodiment of their power. This was not merely a political center, but a thriving cosmopolitan hub, where merchants, monks, and scholars from across Asia converged. The city was surrounded by massive walls reaching 12 meters in height and extending nearly 9 kilometers in circumference, protecting the sophisticated urban center within. Archaeological excavations reveal a city built on a carefully planned grid system, with Buddhist temples, administrative buildings, markets, and residential quarters arranged in an orderly fashion. The urban infrastructure was remarkably advanced, featuring drainage systems, specialized craft workshops, and storage facilities for the empire's substantial grain reserves. Khara-Khoto became a center of Buddhist learning and artistic production, where thousands of manuscripts, woodblock prints, paintings, and sculptures were created. The city's importance remained hidden until the early 20th century, when modern explorers first discovered its ruins. Russian explorer Pyotr Kozlov's expedition in 1908 to 1909 unearthed a treasure trove of artifacts, many of which were transported to St. Petersburg, where they remain in the Hermitage Museum's collection. These discoveries provided crucial evidence of the sophisticated material culture of the Tanguts and sparked renewed interest in this forgotten civilization. The famous White Pagoda at Khara-Khoto exemplifies how the Tanguts adapted Buddhist architectural conventions to express their unique cultural identity, featuring a distinctive architectural style that blended influences from multiple traditions while maintaining its own aesthetic sensibilities. Buddhism formed the spiritual and cultural cornerstone of Tangut civilization, but their religious practices were characterized by remarkable syncretism and innovation. The Tanguts embraced multiple Buddhist traditions simultaneously, incorporating Chinese Chan, Zen, Buddhism, Tibetan tantric practices, and elements of indigenous shamanic traditions and ancestor worship. This religious flexibility reflected their broader cultural approach of adaptation and synthesis. Tangut emperors positioned themselves as Dharma kings who protected and propagated Buddhist teachings. They commissioned massive translation projects that rendered the entire Buddhist canon into the Tangut language, using their unique script. These translations weren't mere copies, but often included original commentaries and interpretations by Tangut scholars, demonstrating their active intellectual engagement with Buddhist philosophy. The empire's patronage of Buddhism extended beyond texts to the visual arts. Tangut artists developed a distinctive style of religious painting that blended elements from Chinese, Tibetan, and Central Asian traditions, while maintaining unique aesthetic sensibilities. Their religious paintings often featured iconography and stylistic elements not found in neighboring cultures. Excavations at Khara-Khoto have revealed thousands of Buddhist paintings, sculptures, and ritual objects that showcase this distinctive artistic tradition. Tangut Buddhism was not confined to the elite, but permeated all levels of society. Archaeological evidence suggests widespread participation in religious practices, with prayer wheels, amulets, and devotional objects found in humble dwellings as well as palaces. Buddhist monasteries served as centers of learning, art production, and social services, forming a crucial part of the empire's institutional infrastructure. These religious institutions also played important diplomatic roles, with Tangut monks traveling to neighboring states and hosting foreign religious figures in cultural exchanges that strengthened the empire's international connections. The Tangut Empire maintained its independence through a sophisticated combination of military strength and diplomatic finesse. Situated between powerful neighbors, the Chinese Song dynasty to the southeast, the Khitan Liao Empire to the northeast, and various Tibetan and Turkic polities to the west, the Tanguts developed effective strategies for survival and expansion in this challenging geopolitical environment. The Tangut military was renowned for its cavalry forces, which combined the horsemanship traditions of the steppe with advanced weaponry and tactics borrowed from their sedentary neighbors. Tangut soldiers were particularly skilled in mounted archery and siege warfare. Their armies utilized a mixed force of heavy cavalry, light mounted archers, and infantry equipped with crossbows and polearms. Military training was rigorous, with archery competitions and horsemanship displays forming important cultural events. This military sophistication allowed them to defend their borders against much larger empires and occasionally expand their territory through conquest. In diplomatic affairs, the Tanguts practiced a pragmatic policy of balancing powers. They accepted nominal vassal status to the Song dynasty while conducting independent foreign relations with other states. This relationship with the Song was formalized through treaties that guaranteed annual payments of silk, silver, and tea to the Tanguts in exchange for peace, essentially a tribute system in reverse, where the larger Chinese state paid the smaller Tangut Empire. The Tanguts also formed marriage alliances with neighboring powers, with Tangut princesses becoming consorts to Khitan and later Jurchen rulers. This complex web of relationships required sophisticated diplomacy, with the Tangut court maintaining officials specifically trained in the languages and customs of neighboring states. Through this combination of military strength and diplomatic skill, the Tanguts maintained their independence for nearly 2 centuries, a remarkable achievement for a relatively small state surrounded by powerful empires. The Tangut civilization represents a fascinating case of cultural synthesis and innovation, where multiple influences were absorbed and transformed into something entirely unique. Positioned at the crossroads of various cultural spheres, Chinese, Tibetan, Turkic, and Mongolic, the Tanguts developed a distinctive identity that reflected their complex origins and interactions. In art and architecture, Tangut craftsmen combined techniques and motifs from multiple traditions. Their textile designs incorporated Central Asian patterns alongside Chinese motifs, while their architectural style blended elements from Buddhist temple traditions across Asia. Tangut bronzework, ceramics, and jade carving show similar creative synthesis, with craftsmen mastering multiple techniques and applying them in innovative ways. The Tanguts were not merely passive recipients of outside influences, but active innovators who transformed what they borrowed. Their literature, preserved in manuscripts recovered from Khara-Khoto, includes translations of Chinese and Sanskrit texts, alongside original compositions in the Tangut language. These works span multiple genres, from Buddhist philosophical treatises to secular poetry, historical chronicles, and practical manuals on subjects ranging from medicine to divination. The Tangut legal system similarly reflected this synthetic approach. Their law codes, partially preserved in excavated manuscripts, show influence from Chinese legal traditions, but adapted to Tangut social structures and cultural values. These codes regulated everything from commercial transactions to family relationships, religious practices, and criminal punishment. The sophistication of these legal texts indicates a highly developed bureaucratic state with complex administrative systems. Even in everyday life, archaeological evidence shows how the Tanguts blended elements from different cultures. Their clothing combined steppe nomadic styles with elements of Chinese court dress. Their cuisine incorporated ingredients and techniques from multiple culinary traditions. Their calendar and timekeeping systems synthesized Chinese, Tibetan, and indigenous practices. This cultural flexibility and creative adaptation was perhaps the greatest strength of Tangut civilization, allowing them to thrive in a challenging environment at the intersection of multiple powerful neighbors. The Tangut Empire met a tragic and violent end at the hands of Genghis Khan and his Mongol forces. After initially establishing an alliance with the Mongols, the Tanguts later broke this agreement, a decision that would prove fatal for their civilization. In 1226, Genghis Khan launched his final military campaign specifically targeting the Tangut Empire. The Mongol conquest was brutal and thorough, with city after city falling to the invaders, despite fierce Tangut resistance. By 1227, the Tangut state had been completely destroyed. According to some historical accounts, Genghis Khan himself died during or shortly after this campaign, making the Tanguts the last conquest of the infamous conqueror. The Mongol destruction was so complete that it effectively erased the Tangut civilization from history. Their cities were razed, their population decimated, and their cultural institutions destroyed. The Tangut language ceased to be spoken, their writing system fell into disuse, and their cultural achievements were largely forgotten. Khara-Khoto, once a thriving metropolis, was abandoned and gradually swallowed by the desert sands. Contemporary accounts describe the systematic nature of this destruction, with the Mongols specifically targeting the elite culture bearers of Tangut society, the scholars, monks, and aristocrats who maintained their traditions. This thorough erasure explains why, despite being a significant power for nearly 2 centuries, the Tangut Empire remains obscure compared to contemporaneous dynasties. The surviving Tangut population was absorbed into other ethnic groups or dispersed across Asia, losing their distinct identity. Some Tangut aristocrats were incorporated into the Mongol elite, but they adopted Mongol customs and language, further contributing to the loss of Tangut culture. This devastating end marked not just the fall of a state, but the near-complete disappearance of a unique civilization, a sobering reminder of how thoroughly history can be rewritten by conquest. For centuries, the Tangut civilization remained largely forgotten, mentioned only briefly in Chinese, Tibetan, and Mongolian historical sources. The rediscovery of this lost empire represents one of the most fascinating chapters in modern archaeology and historical linguistics. The process began in the early 20th century, when explorers first encountered the ruins of Khara-Khoto. Russian explorer Pyotr Kozlov's expedition in 1908 to 1909 marked a turning point, unearthing thousands of manuscripts, paintings, and artifacts from the sand-buried city. These materials, transported to St. Petersburg, provided the first substantial evidence of Tangut civilization and sparked scholarly interest in this mysterious culture. The challenge of deciphering the Tangut script became a major focus for linguists. Early efforts made limited progress, but the discovery of Tangut Chinese dictionaries, like the pearl in the palm, provided crucial keys to understanding this complex writing system. Throughout the 20th century, scholars from Russia, China, Japan, and the West gradually pieced together the phonology, grammar, and vocabulary of the Tangut language. The development of digital technologies in recent decades has accelerated this work, with computer databases allowing for more systematic analysis of Tangut texts and identification of patterns in their complex characters. Archaeological work has similarly expanded our understanding of Tangut material culture. Excavations at multiple Tangut sites have revealed sophisticated urban planning, technological innovations, and artistic achievements. Scientific techniques like radiocarbon dating, DNA analysis, and ground-penetrating radar have provided new insights into Tangut society, economy, and daily life. Interdisciplinary research combining linguistics, archaeology, art history, and historical analysis continues to fill gaps in our knowledge. As research continues and more artifacts are analyzed, our understanding of this enigmatic empire grows richer. This ongoing work challenges conventional narratives about the development of East Asian civilization and reminds us that history's silences often conceal remarkable stories waiting to be told. The Tangut achievement stands as a testament to how even smaller states could carve out significant roles in the complex political landscape of medieval East Asia through cultural innovation, military strength, and diplomatic skill, only to be almost completely erased from historical memory by the forces of conquest and time. Though nearly erased from history, the legacy of the Tangut civilization offers profound insights into the dynamics of cultural development, state formation, and historical memory. The Tangut achievement demonstrates how frontier zones between major civilizations can become centers of innovation, rather than mere peripheral areas. By selectively adopting elements from their neighbors while maintaining their distinctive identity, the Tanguts created a sophisticated synthesis that challenges our understanding of cultural development in medieval Asia. Their creation of an entirely new writing system, one of the most complex ever devised, represents an extraordinary intellectual achievement and a powerful statement of cultural independence. The Tangut case also illuminates the complex relationship between political power and cultural memory. Despite their significant achievements and 2 centuries as a major regional power, the Tanguts were nearly forgotten after their destruction by the Mongols. This historical erasure reminds us how thoroughly victors can reshape historical narratives and how easily sophisticated civilizations can disappear from collective memory. For modern scholars, the ongoing process of recovering Tangut history and culture demonstrates the value of interdisciplinary research in reconstructing lost knowledge. The collaboration between linguists deciphering texts, archaeologists excavating sites, art historians analyzing visual materials, and historians contextualizing findings has gradually restored a civilization that was nearly lost to time. The Tangut Empire's story also offers perspective on current geopolitical realities in Central and East Asia. The regions once ruled by the Tanguts remain zones of cultural interaction and political significance, with many of the same geographic factors that shaped Tangut history continuing to influence modern developments. Understanding how the Tanguts navigated their position between larger powers provides historical context for contemporary dynamics in these regions. Perhaps most importantly, the rediscovery of Tangut civilization reminds us that our understanding of history remains incomplete and evolving. The gaps in our historical knowledge may conceal remarkable civilizations and achievements that await rediscovery. As research continues, the Tangut legacy challenges us to question conventional historical narratives and recognize the diversity and complexity of human cultural development across time and space. The story of the Tangut Empire represents one of history's most remarkable cases of cultural flowering, violent erasure, and gradual rediscovery. For nearly 2 centuries, this sophisticated civilization flourished in one of Eurasia's harshest environments, developing a unique writing system, creating distinctive artistic traditions, and maintaining independence through military strength and diplomatic skill. The Tanguts controlled crucial sections of the Silk Road, built impressive cities like Khara-Khoto, and fostered a syncretic culture that blended influences from multiple traditions while maintaining its distinctive identity. Yet this achievement was nearly lost to history when Genghis Khan's Mongol forces destroyed the empire in 1227, systematically erasing its cultural institutions and dispersing its population. For centuries afterward, the Tanguts remained little more than a footnote in histories written by their neighbors. Only through the painstaking work of modern archaeologists, linguists, and historians has this remarkable civilization begun to reclaim its place in our understanding of human history. As research continues, the Tangut legacy challenges us to reconsider conventional narratives about cultural development in East Asia, and reminds us that history's silences may conceal extraordinary achievements. In the story of the Tanguts, we find not just a fascinating historical episode, but a powerful reminder of both the fragility and resilience of human cultural achievements in the face of time and conquest. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for updates. Your feedback is appreciated. We hope to see you again.